Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to talk about some AI and some things around the GitHub platform. We are going to get straight into things because we've got lots of stuff to cover. And I am going to bring up some slides that we can kick off the session with. It is going to be a session to suit all knowledge levels. If you are someone that is just getting to know GitHub and AI-powered development for the first time, we'll make sure we catch you up to start, and then we're going to try and go as deep as we can within an hour to show you some things that maybe you haven't seen before. Okay, give me a second, and I will put the slides on, and then hopefully you can see a nice dark intro there. So this is our topic for today. You've joined to hear about AI-powered dev workflows with GitHub. That's a fancy title. My name is Ben. I come from the Microsoft side. I work closely with Reddington here across the region. My focus is on helping people understand some of this new emerging tech coming out, both from the GitHub platform and the broader Microsoft ecosystem. So I wanted to start today by just giving you a catch up on what's going on in the platform, what are the trends you need to be aware of, and then we're going to go in and we're going to demo and see some stuff live. This is where I start the discussion for most people. When we think about AI dev workflows, we talk a lot in Microsoft about developer productivity. And it's a topic that you've probably been hearing about this and how AI can make all of us more productive, really, but particularly the developers. And our mission has been to see how we can change the balance of developers' times to do more of the stuff on the top, more designing, more brainstorming, more planning, etc., and less of all the things on the bottom. If you're joining the call and you are a developer yourself, you might already know that some of the stuff like writing boilerplate code, debugging issues, version upgrades on your frameworks, it's not necessarily the thing that we're passionate about, but it can consume a lot of time as a developer and impact how we can deliver outcomes out to our customers. So why do we focus on that stuff? This is the big picture, and this is, I think, what you want to keep the eyes on in your business is by improving the developer productivity and the developer experience. You're trying to achieve faster time to value, shipping faster, getting products out the door. It's essential for all businesses, particularly those that are running a SaaS business and you're on that aggressive cadence, time is money sort of thing. So we're measuring that as much as measuring how many lines of code we can create. You only get the value when you get release out the door. But you also get benefits from the operational side if you're fixing issues faster, responding to outages, turning things around in a reporting sense. Any of that other efficiency for your business gives you more time back. And through doing all of that, hopefully you're achieving better retention, better morale of your own team. And that's a hidden benefit that shouldn't be underestimated, because knowledge retention, particularly in small businesses where people get to know the technology and the tech stack a lot, is going to help you in the longer term. A really quick history of agents and AI-powered development. SWE agent, it's a term that only came into life less than a year ago, and I do get a giggle out of running a history lesson on literally 12 months, but that is how fast the industry is moving now. If you haven't heard this term, SWE agent, or software engineering agent, is a type of AI agent. If you know agents but you haven't heard of this one, it's an agent that will help you with all of those tasks that it lists out there: coding, testing, debugging, documenting, guiding on your architecture. It's sort of evolved from the earlier versions of the coding assistants we've had for a couple of years now. And on the bottom, it says in bold there, they do this while letting you as a team focus on the creative stuff, the real high-value problem solving. We're in a rapid rise of functionality around the AI in software development here. 3 steps to the evolution that had come all over the last 12 to 18 months in a quick span. And they start with the Q&A side. Hopefully everyone's seen ChatGPT, Microsoft 365, Copilot, things like that. We're getting more and more comfortable with chatting with AI and asking it questions. So we've been able to do that with coding assistants for a while. And then we've migrated to stage 2, which is task-based agents that can take action and do things for us, which is great. And for a period of time, we've been using those in a supervised environment. So you work as a pair programmer, you can think of it, together with an agent to get stuff done. More productive than stage 1, but then stage 3 has come along really quickly just in the last few months, where we've been able to challenge those same agents to run autonomously, independently, to work on their own, and to pass us results that we can look at in our own time. So think about it as very much the same engines at work powering them, but we've just given them more freedom, more ability to work on their own, so that we can scale further, so that we can get them doing things that we just didn't have the time to even pair program up with our agents. And the progression of all of that, this is how quickly it's happened. I look here at the evolution of GitHub Copilot, which is what we're going to demonstrate today. It was the very first AI coding assistant way back in 2021 when it launched. It only focused on one thing. It focused on code completion using a large language model, fancy term for AI, to say, we can predict the next lines of code that you want to add to your application. And back then, that was revolutionary. That was really supercharging productivity. But since then, you can see all the things that have been added, the ability to chat, the ability to work on multiple files at once, and then these new agent modes. They are so new that we only saw the agent mode in the editors come February was when we launched it in preview for Visual Studio Code, one of the flagship editors we've got at Microsoft. It's since come to other editors. So if you're using JetBrains family, if you're using Eclipse, they're all getting the same sort of features. And then just in May last month, we saw the launch of this unattended autonomous agent. And in GitHub terms, we call ours the GitHub coding agent, and it lives right in the GitHub platform. We will take a look today at how each of these experiences looks and feels. There's a lot more changing in the tools. I tell you what, I have, in my role as a developer productivity specialist, I have almost a full-time job keeping up with all of the features that are coming in. You can see there the idea of using multiple models, the idea of editing multiple files, reviewing code as an agent, searching the web automatically as well as the models. There's all sorts of stuff in here. Don't get too overwhelmed by all the advanced features. My ask to you, if you're just getting to know tools like this, like we're going to demonstrate today, is get comfortable with the basics of chatting with it and getting help. And then you will grow from there, and you'll naturally get to know some of the hidden features around using an agent at your side. How do we interact with these? You will see it in demo mode when we go there in a second, but the idea of a software agent is we're thinking about it in terms of entry points, feedback, and exit points. So today, the agent mode that we launched in VS Code that's been around for a couple of months, it uses the IDE itself as the main entry point. So you come into VS Code, you interact with the agent right there, give it a task, and it will work on it in front of you. But as we evolve the agents, there could be many ways to enter into work with an agent. It could be create an issue item, create a pull request inside your GitHub platform. Maybe you're chatting with the agent in Teams or Slack. These are all ways that we could hand off work. Once we hand it off, you're either watching it right there in the editor, or maybe you're watching it in the web in the session log that I'll show you later on. And eventually the agent decides that it's come up with enough of a work to hand control back to you. And the exit points today are either going to be writing everything it's done into a pull request, which is a term that you might know if you're a developer yourself. It reflects just a bundle of work that you as a person can go and look over, check, and decide what happens next. The agents today, they do not launch real software into the world without a human checking them. But man, they get close closer than ever before by staging that work in a place where all we have to do is review it and then push it out using all the quality and the deployment processes that we have as a team. If that's all feeling really abstract, don't stress too much. We are going to be showing you what these experiences look like. To take things one step further, you may be hearing about this term agentic DevOps in the last month or two. At Build, it got a bit of a mention. And agentic DevOps is just a way of saying that we've moved beyond just the coding now. And when we think about AI-powered workflows, you will see this year and into the years to come, more and more of these agentic-like experiences coming across the dev tools and the platforms you use. So we're going to look at the agent mode and the coding agent today. We won't have time probably to look at the app modernization agents, but they're really powerful. If you've got legacy.NET or legacy Java code that you're sitting on, there are ways you can use Copilot to speed those up. And then we're even experimenting with agents in other contexts. The SRE agent on the far right there, that's an agent that specializes in running and monitoring your Azure estate. So if you're a customer on Azure Cloud today, then you've now got an agent that can get to work on your behalf unattended to do things like resolve production incidents, query performance, detect that things may be unhealthy in your application, and go and get to work remediating it. Where do we think it's heading? This is the long-term view. You might be hearing about human and agent teams. It's an exciting and somewhat scary concept to people, because this idea that the team that we work in might become composed of a mix of real people and the agents themselves. We can already achieve elements of this today by putting some of these out-of-the-box agents to work. But over the year, we're going to see more and more examples of companies that are creating customized agents, their own agents that understand their scenarios, their data, their systems, and then blending those agents into really interesting workflows. We're not going to go too much or much at all into the side of building a custom agent, but what you see us demonstrate today on GitHub Copilot, an out-of-the-box agent, you can think of applying those same concepts to building your own if that excites you. All right, we're going to go demo some stuff. Everything I demo today, it's going to be inside the GitHub platform. It is the flagship platform for AI that we have as Microsoft. It is now closely integrated to Azure Cloud from both a licensing and purchasing perspective, and just the dev productivity and the dev experience. But it works with all the tools that you use today. If you're a mixed company that uses different source control, different security tools, it is very plug and play, and you'll be able to come up with a dev workflow that suits your team. Okay, let us go into demoing. Oh, I've stopped my share and I'll just restart it. Give that a second to load, and we should now be seeing a very dark looking, because I rock the dark theme, editor, which is VS Code. And I'm going to show you some stuff here, and then I'm going to show you what these experiences look like inside the GitHub web UI as well. My challenge is to see how much I can show you within 45 minutes, but we're going to be doing that in the context of a demo application that I've got running. And the first thing we're going to do, as we would if we were working with Copilot in our day-to-day job, is we're going to ask Copilot to help us understand the code that we've just opened. You can see I've got my project is open in VS Code there. I am sitting on the original mode here of Copilot. This is the ask and answer mode. And later on, we're going to switch to agent mode. We are going to say at workspace, which is a fancy way of saying, please go and read all of my project workspace here for what I'm about to ask you. And we'll say, please give me an overview of this project as a new developer or a new member. I might make it slightly bigger so that everyone can see that on their screen. And within a couple of seconds, my model has come back and it's given me a summary after reading all of the files that I've got in the app of all sorts of things. We've got project structure. It tells me I've got an API, I've got front end, I've got some infrastructure as code, I've got lots of different things here. It tells me what technologies I'm working with for the front end, for the back end, some information on how to run and build my app, and some more tips and stuff, next steps. And it did that quickly. I'm on the GPT 4.1 model. You will notice how many different LLMs you can use in Copilot today. There are a lot, but the base model that most people will start with is 4.1, and it's a really good model for just everyday all-purpose use, and it can respond very quickly to requests like that. So what does the app look like? We haven't seen it in action yet, but here is it running. It's our front-end application for something called Octocat Supply. You can see the cat theme here from GitHub side. Octocats, they're a pet-run business that do logistics and supply chain, and their website is half built out. In this mode, the Octocat Supply site, it's got as far as a searchable product screen. I've got something that looks like cart functionality, but you'll see pretty quickly that if I was to add one of my products to the cart, I get a pop-up that says you've added this, but I do not get anything else. There is actually no cart implemented. I can do that as many times as I want, but there is no way to access or follow through. So it needs work. And this could have been something that we prototyped really, really quickly and now want to keep expanding as a new app. I will go back into the browser. I am going to pause my app from running on my terminal just down there, and I am going to ask Copilot to plan out some new features for me. So this is where I will use a few of the new features for Copilot. If you've used Copilot before, you may not have seen that there are now all these ways that we can feed in pre-made prompts and custom instructions into Copilot to help me do my work. So I've got a custom instructions file that's there. This is me giving general purpose tips about how I want Copilot to work on my app with me. And I can put all sorts of information in there. But I've also got a planning prompt, which is what I'm about to run. And I will use this prompt to plan out a piece of work. Think about it, if you've ever used an LLM in a system prompt, if you've had experience working with the models themselves, this is a way of feeding in something similar, but these plan prompts and the prompt files, they're designed so that I can stack up as many as I want for different use cases that are important to me. And in the interest of time, we're just going to select that plan one, and we're going to trust that in there, it will help me to say, I want to implement the cart feature for my app. Please help plan this out. And I'm going to give it some more context as well as the prompt itself. Don't forget that Copilot can understand images. It's multimodal as well as multimodal. So dragging in a mock-up or a design for my cart here will let Copilot understand what it's looking at. This is wonderful if you've got a designer that works in tools like Figma or really any mock-up design product that is out there. They can be feeding you those designs. You can hand them off directly to Copilot now to start the coding process of that feature. And that's what we'll do here. But we're planning mode. So we're in ask mode here in Copilot. I will trigger off that prompt. And we're going to see that before anything gets coded, I've asked for it to do some planning work with me. Certainly, it says, here's a code change plan. It's summarized the requirements. It is asking me some clarifying questions. So I can go and have a whole discussion here in the chat mode. I can answer those questions in bulk, one by one, start to refine and iterate over the plan until I am happy that this implementation is what I had in mind. You can see how much it fleshed out here. It has done a lot of thinking work quickly for me, up to the point where it said, right, this is how I'm going to go about this. I will create a branch. I will implement the back end and then the front end, do some testing, do some deployment. And this is where we remind ourselves that it does so much more than just coding. Now, we're not limited to this just working on the lines of code, but it will need to start coding before we can do any testing or deployment. So let's get it to kick in. We're going to go into agent mode. We're also going to change to a different model. We're going to go up to the Sonnet 4 model, which is a model that's been really effective at agentic coding particularly. You can use it for anything. It's one of our premium models here, but it's so good that in the coding agent we look at later, it's become the base model at the moment. And I'm going to say, please implement these changes. And let's see Copilot get to work. Okay, this is what you'll notice here. Copilot, when we're in agent mode, the new tooling here, we've given the power for it to do its own research. So while ask mode that we started with will only ever look at things that we feed in as context. The agent mode, it's gone off and read a whole heap of things on its own that it decided was relevant to the request that we've given it. And then once it's done reading, it's gone into coding mode. So it said, let me implement the cart feature. I'll start with the back end, and away it goes. Pretty quickly, we're going to see we've got code flowing in a nice green font there. You can see these files, the green icons means the file did not even exist before Copilot came in. So now this idea of just doing autocomplete, I've actually skipped over autocomplete altogether in the demo. You can still do that and go and hand edit these files if you want to, but you've got the power when you're running in agent mode for it to go and actually create files, update files where it needs to update an existing file, and it will do that progressively over the whole application. So it's going to work away for a while here. It's going to be coding. We can see we've got some back-end stuff. It's going to be eventually going off and creating front ends as well. And then it will periodically check in with me and see how we should go about running that code. While we do that, we are going to fire up the, let's come back here and let's come in and have a look. Actually, I want to be on my other browser. I want to be here, and I want to come in to my same repo inside the GitHub platform. So this is where we will pause to talk about the tools that we're looking at. So far, we're looking all at GitHub Copilot. So it is the core productivity tool. There are two ways to use Copilot today. What I'm showing you at the beginning there, this is Copilot running inside the editor. So if you're a developer or if you're any sort of technical person that lives in an IDE or development environment, you get Copilot as a plugin here. And when it runs here, it can work off code bases that come from anywhere. It does not have to be limited to a GitHub code base. It can be an Azure DevOps code base or pretty much any source, even if you pulled the code just off your PC. As long as you load it in here in the IDE, Copilot can help you work on it. What we're seeing now is we're seeing more and more of that Copilot experience get embedded into the GitHub platform as well. So think about it as the next layer of productivity is when you get Copilot running together with the GitHub platform, we're going to see a little bit later on that you have the ability to go and hand off unattended work, that autonomous agent we mentioned before, to a Copilot agent, and then just let it go without having to be monitoring and watching it in the IDE. While we wait for our agent to do its thing, I can see it's up to the index. It's doing a bunch of coding there. I will show you some of the other Copilot experiences that are coming into the platform. We have a lot of things going on in GitHub. If you don't know the GitHub platform, Actions is our CI/CD and pipelines feature that we've got. So you can do a whole lot of interesting automations in here. These now have the same Copilot intelligence built in to Actions to do things like debug failing deployments or failing workflows. If you're a team that's trying to push software out to production or to servers, you're getting cryptic errors coming in your build logs, you'll notice I've got a button here that says explain error. I can hand off the logs, I can hand off the workflow definition to Copilot and let it have a think about what is going on, why is my job failing, what can I do to resolve it? And within, I don't know, 2 or 3 seconds, it's come back and said, this is failing because of a typo that you've got in your workflow file. It's not a shock to me because I was sneaky. I introduced the typo there. I'm missing an L, but GitHub Copilot found it and recommended what I should do. If this was a much more subtle issue, if this was something that was buried deep into the workflow, it can go and pick those out. It can recommend steps to further troubleshoot or diagnose it. But you are essentially getting that Copilot intelligence in your deployment pipelines. The other main place that you may be seeing Copilot pop up when you're inside the GitHub platform is inside the security tools. So if you don't already know these tools, this is all about you finding and resolving security vulnerabilities in your application, which has typically been a high-touch process that's needed a lot of tooling set up, a lot of time to go and remediate things as alerts come through. And now you've got the power of not only seeing the security alerts, because I'm running our GitHub security tools, I see the alert come in, but I've got the ability to come in and review the alert and decide that I want to hand off the security vulnerability to Copilot by just saying generate fix there. And now I've asked my Copilot to go and run and fix that vulnerability for me. How does it do it? It spins up a workspace of its own behind the scenes. It codes away, creates some potential code that fixes that issue. And once it's done, this one will probably work. Oh, I've picked the wrong one, have I? I've picked an auto fix that it is not able to do. But I think I had one, maybe this one that was back here that just got fixed before. Yes, this one I did yesterday. This one, it's come in, it's a workflow, does not contain permissions alert that's come through. And in this case, it simply had to go in and apply a change to my build pipeline file, add some explicit permissions on, and then it's left that for me in a place where I can commit it to a new branch, commit it to an existing branch, and then I decide where it goes from there. As I said, nothing will ever get into your production application without real people checking it. This is not about taking developers or humans out of the loop. This is about supercharging your productivity to get stuff like this done so that you can get back to more high value, more innovative features. Let's check in on our agent. It has paused because it's been going for a while. I'm going to give it the ability to keep going. Let's see. You can see the number of files it's created here. It's done TypeScript stuff. It's done some services, some model updates, and it will continue on. Because the models are non-deterministic, it will implement this slightly differently each time. So I can't tell you exactly how long it'll take to do the job, but typically it's been around 10 or maybe 15 minutes for this particular task, and then it might hand control back to me. But I can see that it wants to go and work on the products page, it's probably going to come in and add like a cart icon, I suspect, while we let it continue to work. So where do we sort of get up to? We've seen some of the embedded experiences. Once my Copilot agent mode pauses, I'm going to show you the coding agent, which is the really exciting one that lives there. We've seen that you can do a lot in the browser, in the IDE as well. So you've now got a choice of where you work with your agents. The things to keep note of is, as I said, none of this agentic technology is able to do single shot application development all in one go. As much as that would be a dream, you can use it for rapid prototyping. Is something that we see, particularly small companies or companies that are just starting up and looking to fail fast on an idea. I will stress that the Copilot tools can work both on greenfield applications, something brand new that doesn't exist. They can skeleton them or scaffold them out for you, mock up features, trial them quickly. And they can also work on an existing code base. So if you have 100,000 lines of application code that needs to be modernized or changed or upgraded, then they can do both of those scenarios. What we generally recommend is break the tasks down into sort of manageable stages here. The way that I did this one, I asked it to create a cart feature. So you can see there's a fair bit involved in just creating this one feature, but it's something that it can attempt over a 15-minute-ish period. I won't leave this running for days and days because there's too much chance that it will misinterpret what I wanted somewhere along the way and then start to give me an unintended outcome. What if it does that? What if it does come in and do some software development that I didn't intend? I have got a lot of control over undoing or accepting changes at every stage here, because it's still a sort of pair software development process, human and agent together. Then I would typically be looking over each of these files and saying, like for this one, it's deleted a line of code in red, it's added 2 lines of code. I can choose to accept or reject individual changes like that, or I can accept or reject whole files if I'm happy with them. And I can even do things like go back in time and go to previous points in my conversation. There is a very hidden rollback feature, an undo button that happens in the conversation thread itself. So that makes me fearless. That means I can try some crazy things, try and have it spec out something that I may never have tried before in my application, and either it will get me halfway there and I can iterate and finish it off, or if it's not what I intended, I've always got the power to roll back. But I will again stress that prototyping, it's amazing for doing things like this. I might have an example if we quickly go into another editor. Let's see if I can show you something that I prototyped myself. We will come up and open this, and I'll go an npm run dev. Let's bring this other, oh, sorry, it's an npm run start. Oh, okay. Let me not do too many things in parallel. My agent has told me it's paused. I am going to launch this one first, and then we're going to come back and we're going to check on my agent in a second. Okay, I'm bringing this other application online, and you will see that this thing, it's a travel tracker application. This is a great example of prototyping something that probably is never going to be production quality enterprise grade software. But this travel tracker app, I asked Copilot to work on this the other day using nothing more than giving it my TripIt data. For anyone that knows the TripIt application, it tracks flights and travel itineraries. I've used TripIt for many, many years. You can see by the number of flights it's got in there. And I gave it the data. I gave it some instructions on how I wanted to visualize, but I left it to do a lot of the thinking for this application itself. So it picked the tech stack. I think I said it had to be JavaScript, but it picked libraries for charting, for mapping, it surprised me because it went and picked OpenStreetMap and it literally visualized all of my flights on the map without me having to guide it. And it came into life. This is something that if I was handcrafting it, would have taken a long time to do. So if you're someone that needs to just mock up, trial out ideas, don't be afraid to just start with a blank sheet. Start with a code editor with nothing in it, which is how this one started life, and ask your Copilot to help you build it from scratch and be amazed at what it can do with you. We are toggling back. We're going to come back to our build script here. It's finished coding for the moment, and it's come and said, do you allow me to run this application? And this is where we see, again, agents can do more than just code. It's going to try and do a build. I suspect it might have a couple of issues because I, as a developer, know that there's still some issues in this particular coding. But we're going to see what it says when it runs. Okay, we did get something that was in all of that work. And this is where, again, I said it's been going for a while now. It's somewhat self-aware to detect things that are happening and to fix issues. But at times, I will step in and I'll help it get itself going again. I think we were going to keep stuff there. I am quickly going to come into my problems. I'm going to ask if Copilot can fix this one for me. Let's come in here. I've used some shortcuts, and you will notice that throughout the editors, whichever IDE you're in, there are various ways to trigger Copilot here. So I've come in and said, right, you can retry this. It may not have quite gotten there. Let's say there are some issues in my cart file. Please fix. And this is me iterating with Copilot to get to the point where I've got a fully functioning app that I'm happy with. Okay, we put it back to work. It's sitting and having a think about what it has to change. And then generating some more edits. Good. It's doing some more research. I'm just going to keep an eye on chat while we're waiting for this. There's some good questions in the chat here. If I just pick off some of them, make sure that I get to them. The challenges as we're doing this, complexity of code bases has been the biggest thing that people are battling against. Is you will find, even on a code base like this, you will not get single shot prompting when you're running these AIs. Sometimes you get to the point where all the generated code is compilable first time, and that's a really great feeling. Other times like this, you will have to work alongside it. So the thing that I would always say to people is don't lose track of your programming fundamentals. You will need to be in control for the most part of the code that's being generated and what it does, so that you can get involved in fixing and adapting it. If you're a team that's already on GitHub platform and you're already using GitHub workflows, then yeah, you're going to be able to just naturally slide into using these tools and the features I showed you in the browser. They're really easy to start to benefit from. Let's see where we got up to here. We are going to let it build out. Don't know that it got there and on my cart. I may not quite be lucky enough to get that all running. I am going to pause in the interest of showing you some more stuff here rather than continue to build off that. I am going to show you some other things, and we might come back and see if we can get that working. But please, let's give it another request here to say, please review the test scripts in my app and make a plan to improve unit test coverage. This goes to one of the other questions that are in chat, is if you're a small business, then chances are that you don't have a massive team of dedicated testers, dedicated DevOps engineers. You've got to be a jack of all trades and get lots of things done without much team size. So this is where I want you to think about Copilot, not just for creating the codes, but any kind of test coverage. We've asked for unit test coverage here, but functional test coverage or UI automation, load tests, penetration tests, whatever you need to get online there, you can get Copilot helping you with that. You can also apply the same thing to working on, functional documentation, manuals for a new release. You can get deployment scripts. There are just so many possibilities of things that you can do together with Copilot. It's having a think. I've asked it to go away and look at what I'm doing with test plans, so that test scripts, so that it can make a plan to improve it. I'm hoping that it comes back and gives me that plan soonish. You can see all the things that it's reading as it goes. I am. This is probably me using Sonnet 4 as a very thorough model. So this is where, again, we've got some guidance on the GitHub site. If you're confused by how many different models are here and how they all work, there's some good articles on selecting the best model for the best job. And Sonnet 4, as I said, it's amazing on being able to do more abstract or more complex tasks. However, it can take longer because of the nature of how thorough and in-depth it goes. It's going to try and run test coverage. I'm not sure, Copilot, if you will be able to run that, but I'm going to challenge it to do it. Let's see how it goes. Oh, it's done. Very nice. Okay, so what it wanted to do is it wanted to run all of the existing tests to confirm, do they actually work? And then it's come back with a whole bunch of things. It's kind of me doing a review of an existing app. If you wanted to do a quality review rather than a testing review, just look at the code quality from my application, we could have asked it to do that. But in this case, I had a specific ask of testing. This has gone on and it's starting to create tests. I'm going to pause it, and I'll tell you why I'm going to pause it rather than just letting it go and implement its plan. I'm going to say, please create a new GitHub issue with the plan to improve test coverage in it. Why am I doing this? What we're going to see here, hopefully, is we will see a different side of the agent mode come into play. And you get a hint here. It says, let me use GitHub MCP tools. We've spoken about the different types of the different modes of Copilot and the way that you can feed in context. The other side of the agentic dev wave and agentic DevOps is the idea of model context protocol as the glue that lets us combine all of your different dev tools and platforms together. So to give you a sense of how MCP works inside the IDE, MCP is really just a standard for wrapping tools that the agent can use, so it knows exactly how to invoke these tools when the timing is right. And there are a lot of tools built already. We've only had MCP for months, not even years, but I've got Playwright testing tools. I've got tools for the GitHub platform and the Azure DevOps platform. I've got DevBox for my cloud development environment, DALL-E for generating images. I think I've got Figma, there we go, for downloading designs from Figma directly. And all of these can now be invoked by my agent. We've just given it a much larger set of tricks it can do than just things that happen locally inside the IDE. In this case, where have we got it up to? I've created a comprehensive one. Let's see. Immediate actions you can take. I don't know that you actually created my issue yet, Copilot, but I'm going to let you continue on and see if it goes and does it. Okay, we do have a failing test, which is fairly expected because I've paused it as we went. Let's see how it goes, whether it wants to, might jump in and start thinking it's going to go and finish off that test that it first created. I think we're going to pause you, Copilot, because I want to see the GitHub issue creation happening. Let's go there, please. Create. I'm going to try the same sort of prompt once more and see if we can get it. Okay, that's more what I expected to see. Here is what it's doing now. So it's calling off to one of those, the GitHub, the MCP tools for GitHub. It's gone in and it's wanting to see my notifications. It's interesting. It's summarizing the conversation history. And then I think what it will do is go away and create an issue that reflects that plan in it. It's wanting a tip to know where my repo is. Normally, it will get that quickly. My repo is here. Create the issue. I've just given it a hint, and this is sort of a iterative process of deciding how much explicit context to feed Copilot. A lot of times when I run this, it has detected the repo without me even having to give it a URL. So my request was pretty vague, create a new GitHub issue. Now I've been more specific. And it will come back in. Okay, assign Copilot to an issue. That's probably not. I don't think we have issues in this particular workspace. We do not. Oh, the demo gods are failing me. We do not have it creating one for me. I might give it one more time. So we can say, please create GitHub issue with a plan to my app. It will have to redo its context here. Use repo for this. Okay, while I'm doing that, I'm going to take another look at the questions because there's been a lot going on. University students learning how to code. Let's talk about where we think this is going as in the industry. As you can see, I am not redundant as a developer yet, clearly, because there are still things that need to be supervised and guided. Where we're seeing, if you are coming through and you're just starting a career, programming fundamentals, understanding what does good code look like, is still as crucial as they've ever been. You need to start with those principles. Then you need to get comfortable with public cloud, which is where a lot of this stuff runs. So learning to work with Azure or work with AWS and the other clouds, that skill is never going to go away. I would add to that by saying the ability to do DevOps, to do the processes of working with Git. These are all still your software fundamentals. The difference here is day to day, once you get into developer roles, you're probably going to be spending less time down in the syntax and memorizing how the individual syntax is applied, and more time thinking about the big picture. So there's been a lot of talk about prompt engineering and prompting as a new skill. really is a skill for all of us in the IT industry, but particularly for developers that want to use a tool like this. So there's definitely a sense that investing in knowing how these tools work, things like the custom instruction files we looked at, the custom prompt files, attaching context of different sorts, so how to work with images as context. These are all the skills that I would then be layering on top of those programming fundamentals. And if you get all of that down, you understand clean code, you understand how to work with a cloud and a DevOps pipeline, and then you understand how to interact with these new agents and AI tools, you're really well positioned career-wise. I hope that helps. We are running low on time. We are going to see if our script can finish off. Oh, it's going to move away from MCP. In a way, if it gets there, that will be fine with me. It's another example of how there's so many different ways to achieve the same task here. MCP, if you haven't been looking at it or working with it already, it's a pretty thin wrapper around existing APIs, existing command lines. All it's doing is exposing that stuff so that the agents know how to work with it. In this case, the agent has decided to go directly into the CLI. Let's see, did it get the issue? It did not. Okay, let's come back and let's go and see if we've got a previous issue. We don't. What a shame. All right, I am going to have to leave you imagining that particular one, because my agent today has decided to be a little bit shy. But the principles here is MCP is going to let you go and do a whole range of things. And you can see the variety. When it's working well, you can go in and work with the work items or the issues. You can trigger off builds and pipelines. You can work with the repos themselves in a direct sense. There is so many things that you can experiment with. And it is just that. It's a time of experimentation. There's a lot of things being done around the security and the ability to host these MCP servers remotely. So watch this space for a lot more standards work and security work. But already, if you're wanting to live on the bleeding edge, go and search for Copilot and MCP. And there's some really great articles on how to get started by putting your own MCP commands in here. Hopefully you can get a little bit further with creating issues and handing them off. What I will do, because I've only got a few minutes left, I'm going to go look for another repo. There we go. And I'm quickly going to show you the feature that I was wanting to assign from my other Copilot. This is the travel tracker app that we were looking at just before. And this is a pre-open GitHub issue where I've said I want to add a language toggle feature to this application. So you notice there is no concept of language or multiple languages in the app. I've had Copilot using a very similar approach. I've had it spec out a new language toggle feature, and then I've come in and I've assigned that issue to Copilot. So if we go all the way back to the beginning of this session, the principle is, could we hand off to the Copilot without supervising it in the editor? And what has happened when I hand it off, it has created a pull request up in GitHub and said, this is where I'm going to do my work. Pull request is just a way that you can store code inside it for other people to review afterwards. And then it's actually spun up a session in GitHub Actions. So it's created its own work environment. And you can see that at the time when I ran this, it ran for about 20 minutes and did an end-to-end work on that request. So the goal was add a language toggle. And what did it have to do? It reviewed the code. It ran the code, I think, checked that it built, did some coding work itself. So over the 20 minutes, it eventually came down. Oh, you can see it even kept its own checklist So it was checking off all the tasks it thought it needed to do progressively. And then I won't bore you with the entire session log, but you can see there's lots and lots of steps of coding, of running, of checking, and eventually right down the bottom, it said, I think I'm done. I have successfully implemented a language toggle feature using all of these things. And it's left all of that code for me to come back in and check. So what I've got here is I've got a commit inside the PR here, and I can come in. I've actually got 3 parts to the commit. But if I open that up, I should see all of the code that it gave me waiting for me to check. And I would do something like open that up in my editor. I could even jump in if I had code spaces, which is our remote VS Code environment. I could open that up, try it, test it, see if that's what I wanted. And if it wasn't exactly what I had in mind, I've got the ability to iterate with these. So the idea of going back and forth with an agent, just like I did it in the editor, you've got features here where you can say, looks good, but please swap out the icon for something larger, whatever it is that you wanted to direct Copilot to do. If I post that as a comment, I will ask the Copilot to kick back into gear. It will go back to work looking at my new comment, and it will edit that same set of code files to iterate until I think it's ready. And then when we both agree, when we know it's done, that's where you commit it into a branch and you get ready to launch that to your customers in production. Lots to try. As we hit the top of the hour, let's talk about what you can do if you are wanting to get hands-on and try some of this stuff out. There are a few ways to have a go of everything I've shown you today. Way number one, and literally the easiest, is that GitHub Copilot has a free tier now where anyone that has a GitHub account, that's a completely free account that you can create as a personal account, can just open your code editor and it will prompt you to start with GitHub Copilot free. A lot of the in-editor features I showed you today, they're all there, but they are capped on usage, which means if you use that for a period of time, eventually you'll start to exhaust your quota and you'll want to upgrade. Where you go from there depends on whether you're an individual developer that's looking to just upgrade and use GitHub personally, or if you're a business or an enterprise that is looking to use GitHub Copilot and the full GitHub platform across the team. That's where this is your key homepage to start. And it's the self-serve 30-day trial that we've got for GitHub. You can jump on there and you can spin up everything I've shown you today. That's the GitHub platform features, the Copilot embedded features in the browser, the security features that we very briefly looked at. All of that gets lit up in the trial period. And you can go and authenticate yourself. If you want to use your work accounts to access that environment, it'll talk you through how to set up the single sign-on, how to link it to your Azure environment, and then eventually you can continue to use from there. Let's say you love it, you want to keep it and start to consume some of these tools for the long term. That's where the Reddington team can come in. They help customers use this as part of their Azure environments. You can now buy almost all of the GitHub software through an Azure subscription. If you use Azure today to buy your licensing, they can help you connect that up, implement it for your business, and then start to just consume that as a pay-as-you-go part of your Azure monthly bill. Super easy to get going with, and of course answer questions you have along the way. But for most people, getting this 30-day trial just lets you jump in and experiment, try out all the features and see what you can create with it. I think we are right at the top of the hour. I am going to pause there. I will thank everyone for joining in. Please do stay in touch. Myself and the Reddington team, we're here. If you've got any follow-up questions or things you want to discuss about how you use this inside your company and business, then we're here and we'd love to chat. For now, enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon for most, and hope you can achieve some really fun stuff with what you've seen.